This is Irene,
Eddie, and Nicholas
from Western Kenya
on BBC World Have You Say.
We're talking to Steve Penk, British radio and TV presenter, Richard Horseman, who's a course leader in postgraduate radio journalism at Leeds Trinity University in the UK. Hannah Flint is a freelance journalist here in the World Have Your Say studio. Dana Steele is a former rock DJ in Houston, Texas. I'm going to introduce you all now as well to Abie, Philbin, Bowman, who is a comedian and broadcaster on radio and TV in Ireland, and also Makosi, Kosa, who's a presenter on East Cape Radio in Durban. Welcome to the programme, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Makosi, first of all, you just respond to the conversation you've heard so far before we get back into it. What do you think of this current, as some people see it, of humiliation in comedy, and whether it can ever be justified?
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for the invitation to put in my 2 cents. I'd like, obviously, to start by saying, passing my condolences to the family of Jacinta Saldana and her friends, in the UK and India as well. A couple of points have been made. I'm not too sure if my flavour is going to expand the debate so much, but just a couple of points. The first one being that I think as radio DJs who do this kind of thing, I think there's a lot of envy around the world about the fact that they managed to get as far as they did. Because there's been talk, I think, from one of your panelists about the fact that if you're a celebrity of sorts, then you're fair game. But what is a celebrity in today's culture? The royal monarchies are celebrities. So they will always be out there. They are the people, I mean, the very fact that there's a pregnancy that people are talking about, that is fair game on its own. So there's no way you can really remove the royals from the public eye. The second point I'd like to make as well is the fact that having said that, one can try and find faults in the trail of from the concept to the execution, but you can't really do that because I think, as been said, they have apologized, and also Jacinta Saldana had a minor role because she was not really the target at all. I've heard mention of the little people or the people who are not really celebrities, but she was not targeted. But these people, or little people, or whatever the correct term is, are targeted in various forms as well, be it candid camera, be it the Jamie Kennedy experiment, etc., etc. So where I'm standing it's unfortunate. I don't think one can regulate it to stop. It is just sad and unfortunate, but I don't think it's stopping. What's sad, I think, has been discussed as well, is that people are looking for scapegoats. And that's really what it is.
And Abie,
that's exactly what they're looking for. I think they're looking for scapegoats.
Let me bring in this point from Peter Funt, who's a writer and TV host writing in the New York Times about this story. And he's talking about the digital reality, I suppose, in 2012 and what that means for this conversation. He says, everything is magnified and made permanent in the digital environment. Pranksters must always be accountable for their actions, but in the digital age, the burden of responsibility also lies with those who use the echo chamber to amplify things to the point of distortion and stress. Unless we're careful, the joke is on us. Now, Abie in Ireland, I'm just wondering what your take is on that. Do you think that the nature of online sharing of this sort of stuff makes you have to deal with these things differently these days?
Well, I think that's an absolutely brilliant point, that the power of social media to very quickly magnify what was a fairly minor prank on a radio station not many people listen to turn it into a global news story fueled by the kind of global media obsession with the royals is, I think, a part of this. I think there are 2 really important points that I'd like to bring into the discussion. One is the Samaritans, the charity, have issued some excellent guidelines on the reporting of suicide. And one of them is avoid simplistic explanations. Nobody takes their life for one single reason and one simple reason. And the truth is we just don't know enough about the person who's lost their life in this case. We don't know her mental health history, nor should we necessarily.
Which is why it's very unfair at the moment that they're dumping all of this on these Australian DJs. Because I agree.
Well, guys, this is Dana.
Well, hang on one sec. Can I just interrupt and just ask Abie to concentrate on the point about the social media and sharing this sort of content, and whether it means that this is just different to how it was in the 1980s and 1990s before Twitter sent this stuff around the world.
I think we all have to be conscious that we live in a faster and and faster media age, and that puts pressures on people that, you know, we could never have possibly evolved to handle, because we're just not used to that kind of the speed with which this hits an ordinary person. But there's another really important distinction here, I think, which is that, you know, and this is a distinction I draw in comedy all the time. If you're going to do satirical comedy, you've got to make sure that the target is an appropriate target. It's somebody who deserves to be ridiculed, who deserves to be mocked. I have no problem mocking the church for its record on child abuse. I have a huge problem with somebody mocking the people who were victims. Now, the problem in this case is that the intended target was, to some extent, fair game, in the sense that the British royal family are global stars and they're, you know, they are open to being mocked. The way it was done, I think, is totally unacceptable, that their private medical records were accessed. But the target was not this woman. She played a very small role in this, and I think it's very unfortunate that she's the one who's taken the brunt of it, where in fact she wasn't the target at all, and they weren't setting out to target her. I think what we're actually seeing here is a case of, in a way, the British Empire's different cultures colliding, where in Australia it is culturally very normal to have this kind of pranking radio station. Everyone knows it's meant in sort of mischievous, you know, light-hearted way, whereas in the culture this woman was from, I'm guessing there's a more deferential culture. There's more of a sense of the British royal family needs to be protected, and they were her guests. And it feels like she had a very different cultural understanding of what took place.
I think with Jacinta, I think her role in it was perpetuated by the fact that her recording was repeated so much, because that was the only thing that the news outlets could really broadcast again. I think you're right with the social media. I think nowadays we're still not kind of used to the speed with which things go around the country. I think it's the same with Twitter trolling, and when celebrities are targeted, you know, I mean, people attack, you know, send loads of messages, but I think there was a good example with Tom Daley with his Twitter troll.
The Olympic diver for Britain, for people who aren't familiar with him, a massive star at a very young age in the United Kingdom because of his involvement in the Olympic team. He
tweeted the Twitter handle, the person who'd sent him kind of a really tacky remark, and then suddenly that person was inundated with abuse, and it's kind of, we shouldn't be fighting fire with fire, you know, and they're taking on this bullying role. And I think social media, so sites like Twitter, YouTube, who kind of hosting these platforms, they need to take a little bit more responsibility for the amount of information that they're sharing, allowing to be shared, and allowing things to be said. You know, no one, no matter what they did, these DJs, no one deserves death threats.